All right, welcome into another episode of the Ryan and Goodman podcast. I'm Jeff Goodman. He's Bob Ryan, and there's no LeBron James left in the NBA playoffs, Robert. And I don't know how you feel about it. You don't seem to be too upset. You're okay without the King. Life can go on.
Okay without the King. I mean, there's enough great players that I want to watch or am happy to watch, enjoy watching. And I'm trying to be realistic. He's 36. He's going to be always, whatever happens, it will be taking longer to recover from whatever injury that we're talking about at any point in time as time goes on. So no, I mean, he's a great player and all that, but we've got some wonderful players, and that's I'm okay with it. Plus, he plays for the Lakers. Am I supposed to be rooting for?
Yeah, I mean, listen. Obviously, I think LeBron is that player that you either love or you hate him. I think way more people love him than hate him.
Oh, I like him. I'm a member. I'm a sign-up member of the fan club, but the world isn't coming to an my world isn't my right. Basketball world is not coming to an premature end because he's not playing. There's plenty more left to keep me interested.
Listen, you still have that team that people love to hate more than anybody right now, which is the Brooklyn Nets.
I'm going to miss them if they ever leave, but I don't think they want to leave. Yeah, I can fast forward to next October, hoisting a flag in the Barclays Center right now, more than anything else.
You'll be there to cheer Kyrie on, won't you?
Well, Mr. Josiah is an alumnus of my school. I suppose I should be pledging some kind of allegiance, especially since he's a rather good donor.
I don't see that happening. I do not see that happening. Now, what I did not see happening also was the Brooklyn Nets taking a commanding 2-0 lead without James Harden, with his hammy acting up again. And these games weren't even close. Like
there's 2-0 leads and there's 2-0 humiliations. Right. And that second game was it was shocking. They led by over 40. And I mean, this is not good for the Bucks. If they go out in flames, don't tell me there won't be some kind of second, the recriminations.
No, the coach will be gone. Bud will be. Listen, the bottom line is if they lose here and they get swept, the public scrutiny will be enough that I don't think you can keep Bud. I think everybody knows, like, the postseason is all that matters now for Milwaukee. You can do whatever the hell you want in the regular season, but you have to get, to me, with Giannis to the NBA Finals. And, I heard some people saying, it might have been Perk, it might have been somebody else saying, like, Giannis can't be the number one guy. Can't be the number one guy. And there's something to be said for that, because in this new age NBA, you have to be able to shoot the basketball. Yeah. And they play differently, obviously, on Giannis. And frankly, you can give him his numbers as well. I think it's Drew Holiday has to be better. Yes, Giannis has to make some shots, and his perimeter shot hasn't gotten much better. Are you buying into that Giannis can't be the number one guy?
Well, if basketball were only fast breaking, if it were only transition, he's the greatest player of all time. I mean, he's the greatest finisher of ever at 7 feet with the dexterity and the length and the athleticism and the explosion. That he's the most frightening force coming down on a fast break that's ever been seen. Okay. Well, guess what? In the playoffs, that's not the case. Even now, that's always been the case. Right now, some numbers on him. He's 3 for 13 outside the paint in 2 games. And he is only, and in the last game, meanwhile, he only took 15 shots the last game.
Right.
Which he's, and so they're finding a way to do what people talk about and dream about, which is negating, neutralizing him.
Yeah.
So far, they have literally neutralized him. Now, so maybe, and Middleton is a nice player. He's a good all-star level player, but he's not a top of the line player. And he is struggling badly. He's 3 for 13 on threes and has only taken 2 free throws himself.
That's the problem. It's
not just, we can't blame it all. Giannis is what Giannis is, but one of those things is, we know the nature of his his lopsidedly flawed game. He's so good at what he does well. He's so with the outside shot and even free throws.
He hasn't gotten better. He just hasn't gotten better from shooting the three. He's tried. Like, give him credit. Unlike Ben Simmons, I think he's tried to get better. It just hasn't been there. And until it's there, honestly, what do? You sag off him and dare him and make him shoot threes if he wants to. But I'm more impressed with Brooklyn than I am depressed about Milwaukee.
They don't mean, right, based on these two games, it'd be nice to have James Harden, but
Are they better without him in some
no,
way?
I'm not going to go there.
Okay.
That's ridiculous.
But Kyrie, here's my take on it. Here's my only take.
Okay.
Is with James Harden, Kyrie is clearly the third option and kind of stands in the corner a lot. Now he's way more engaged.
Oh.
And we know like Kyrie's good enough to be a really good number 2 guy. And as a number 3, I almost feel like,
okay,
man, like,
that's a good, and that speaks to the psychology of it more than the technology of it. It's technicality of it. Okay, which is good. P.D. Carrill, the name of the book is called "The Strong Take from the Weak Take from the Strong." But and talked about the mental aspect of the game. Okay, here's my take on. I'm with you on Kyrie, and let me just reshuffle the verbal deck a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's going whoopee. James isn't playing. I'm not going to say he's not saying that.
Yeah.
But what I am saying is, for reason that you just cited, and others, he's saying, "Hey, it's okay. I got it.
Right.
We got it. KD and me, we got it. We're cool. We can." And the thing of this greatness about KD is he can play with anybody.
Yep.
His name is his type of the nature. There's no but with his game. The nature of his game is that he can play with anybody. They can play inside, outside, mid-range, whatever you want. Transition, no transition. Oh my God! He's going to do what he does, and he can adapt to anything, because his game has got no weakness, and he can do everything.
Yeah, I just felt like,
is,
again, Harden is so ball dominant, and when you have 3 ball dominant guys out there, right? I mean, they're elite level ball dominance, right? With KD, Harden, and Kyrie. But when you have 3 ball dominant, one's going to be standing around. They're not ball moving.
Yeah, right. No, that's true. But I don't view, maybe I'm wrong, or maybe it's just a matter of semantics, which it probably is. KD is ball dominant. I think that he can come off, he can run around and come off picks. He doesn't, once he gets the ball, he's not handling it for 10 seconds as a rule.
Right.
Kyrie is often, and of course Harden used to handle it for 20 out of 24 in the old days, not anymore, but no, but all this speaks to the beauty of the game and the nature of the game, and the fact that the game is always bigger than any one individual. And it comes down to one thing always. There were 5 guys and 1 pelota, one, and they have to figure out how to adjust to that reality.
So I tweeted the other day, in my lifetime, Bob, the best scorers I've ever seen: 1, Michael Jordan; 2, Kevin Durant. And I got some brushback, the Kobe fans were saying, how do you not have Kobe in that mix? I said, for me, Kobe would be 3.
I mean, Kobe's Michael Light. He's Michael 1A.
You can't go ahead of Michael.
But I'm not taking him ahead of Michael ever.
Can you make a case? Kevin Durant is the best pure scorer that we've ever seen, Bob?
When you tend to not dismissed, but overlook how big he is, and how he's at least 6'10", if not
7
11.
feet. No, he's 7 feet.
All right, well then this is absurd. We've never seen anything. Dirk was terrific at 7 feet, but this is something else. And
well, what can KD not do, Bob, that anybody else could do? And KD shoots it so much better than Michael.
I mean, in terms of scoring, the answer is nothing. The different, I still would take Larry Bird if I had to win a game because of the passing. Larry can enhance everybody's game in a way that, Frank, only one other forward has ever been able to do, and that's LeBron himself. And if you want to even call LeBron's just a player. I long ago.
Don't even give him a position. That's right.
He's a player. Larry was a forward.
LeBron almost starts that positionless basketball, doesn't he? Like, if you think of a guy who personifies the era of positionless basketball, it's clearly LeBron. You could put him at 1 through 5 and he'd be fine. It doesn't matter.
There was not a knock, but he wasn't a great post-up player. Well, he went down, he did what Larry did and what Magic did. He went home and said, okay, I'll fix that.
Right.
And they made himself into a post-up player. Larry used to go do that. And then Magic, when he came in, wasn't much of a shooter really, but he made himself into a very useful shooter. Anyway, no, you're right about that. And
who's the best player, Bob? Who's the best player you've ever seen that has gone from a poor shooter to a really? Is it Jason Kidd? Like not a good shooter.
Really become a great. Well, he made a lot of threes. It's true, he did.
He was a good shooter.
Who really upped his game a lot And they're going to laugh. What? From the ABA to the NBA, Dr. J.
Really?
Dr. J made himself into a pretty damn good shooter, much more than he had to be in the NBA. The ABA, NBA, he was going to basket anytime he wanted to, always, I guess. I'm not downplaying. I'm not. But right. I think Dr. J, by the way, just for the record, his last shot ever, basket ever was a 3.
Was it?
It was in Milwaukee in 1987.
Really?
I was there. And it was a 3, which I don't know, just for what it's worth. But I'm trying to think of anybody else that
I have a low level name for you. I have a low level name for you of a guy that couldn't shoot at all, couldn't shoot a lick when I first saw him. Do you remember Darrell Wright?
Only the name.
All right, Darrell Wright. Literally, when I saw him on the AU circuit, he was like a freak athlete, could not shoot at all. He came in, and this is what they say about NBA execs say, like the one area you can really improve is your shooting. He led the league in 3-point percentage one year as a complete, I'm telling you, in high school, could not shoot a lick.
All right. 2 things. I got the 2 things on this. One is I did live through a guy who was a pretty bad shooter that became at least mediocre to acceptable. Don Chaney. And that was Tommy Heinsohn's before John Calipari, there was Tom Heinsohn with individual instruction. You wouldn't, and he took to take Don Chaney aside and work on his shot. He drifted. He didn't go up straight. He had this. He worked on him to where he was acceptable. The most amazing modern phenomenon of making yourself into a shooter is Brook Lopez.
Yes.
Go over those numbers of the. He never took a 3, 1 or 2 or 3, 6 a year, to where he became what he does last year with the Nets, took the most 3s on the team. And now, he's a reliable 3-point shooter of the modern ilk of modern big men. That's the most, just on sheer numbers, his story is the most amazing.
Because Brook at Stanford could shoot it from 18 feet. It wasn't like Brook didn't have skill. And then he goes into the league and he's like a post-up, guy that's really 12 and in.
McGuire aircraft carrier. That wasn't what it was asked of him.
Yeah,
but once
exactly.
But he made himself into an excellent 3-point shooter.
All right, so Brooklyn, Milwaukee have any shot of coming back, or are you sticking a fork in them?
Forks in.
Sticking a fork in them. Yeah.
Might win
I mean, they may win a game. They may split.
Might win a one for the Gipper game in Milwaukee, but that's it. I can't imagine that. They look so I don't know what's going to resurrect them. I don't know.
Hi guys, Cedric Maxwell here. I want to take a minute to tell you about Marigold Medical. I'm used to keeping my body in great shape, but with arthritis, even the most simple everyday tasks became unbearable. As soon as I called Marigold Medical, I knew I was in good hands. No drugs, no surgery, just an experienced team of caring professionals that wanted to get me back to doing the things I love. Make the call to Marigold Medical and get back to pain-free life.
All right, the other series in the East is actually at 1-1, and like today it looks competitive, right? I mean, Philly got kind of manhandled and shocked in game 1, and I think it was like the ultimate wake-up call for Philly. I think they felt like, hey, we're going to breeze through this one. It's Atlanta. I know they have Trae Young. Now, Doc made some adjustments in game 2. You got to make that supporting cast beat. You can't let Trae Young just kind of do whatever he wants and control the tempo and control the game like they did in game 1.
Well, he's got the physical guys to put on him. First of all, here's Simmons. He's 6'9". Yeah. And you can put him on him. And the other guy, Tybell, is a defensive player.
Tybell's awesome.
He's a defensive player.
Yeah.
So this is going to be interesting to see how Trae Young adjusts to this. But what Embiid is doing, is he really got a torn meniscus? Is it? No, I mean, I'm not. This is like, talk about valor. I mean, how do you play this?
Bob, a torn meniscus for Joel Embiid is nothing with everything he's been through. Think about it.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably partially torn. Obviously it's not fully torn. But Joel's been through so much. I mean, this is a guy, when he's out there on the court. Do you love Joel as much as I love Joel? Because I love the emotion from him.
I was put off by it, and now I'm to the point where I say, okay, that's him. You know, we all have. Okay, yeah, he makes me laugh a little bit in that regard. You know, and plus I'm amused. Hey, you know, I don't speak. I mean, he's from a different culture, and he certainly sounds like every tough talking American kid. He's unguardable. Frankly, at playing well, he is unguardable. At least, and
He's
Capella,
Olajuwon, isn't he, Akeem? Isn't he?
Isn't
He the closest thing to Akeem we've seen?
It's a good, very good, and not just because he comes from the continent,
Right.
but yes, he is. I would, and of course with far more range, you know, when he has to.
Right.
But you know, he could spend a whole night in a low post like as if it's 1955 and be comfortable, or he can step out and face up and you know and be comfortable. Yeah, nice. But that and it's not like Capella. Capella's good, and I'm a big fan of Capella. And you know, you wouldn't even know he's on the floor at times. I mean, I'm trying to guard this guy. If he's going to play like that, they're going to be awful tough to beat.
Yeah, there's just nobody else.
Right.
Listen, if Capella can't handle it, I don't think there's anybody in the league that can handle Joel. But the league has changed so much for bigs that, again, if you want to stand out there and shoot threes, yeah, you guys can handle you. But if you go in the post, there's not one guy in the NBA that can handle Joel. Not one.
No, I know. Another guy that can get down in the post I'm just saying, I'm not saying he could guard Embiid, but do it himself. Karl Anthony Towns, damn it, can score in a low post, and I wish they would have utilized that more. But obviously, I'm not. I'll take Joel Embiid over Karl Anthony Towns. There's no issue with that. So I still think Atlanta has to be feeling okay with itself, because no one ever wants to admit that when you're this road team that you're happy with a split, but you are happy with a split.
100%.
You are always happy. I've seen enough playoffs to know that. So they got to be feeling okay, and they got to be feeling okay. Young will figure it. They'll figure something out. They'll try some way to, you know. So
I mean, the crazy thing with Atlanta, Bob, is what people kind of failed to realize is their bench is really good right now, and they're without DeAndre Hunter for the rest of the year. And
yeah, now
Reddish.
That's a shame. I'm sorry. I hate, as I say, loose ends. There's another major loose end now that don't have him. He helps them at both ends of the floor. Yeah, that's a big one. That's why I'm not. I can't imagine I'm winning the series now.
No, probably not. Probably not. But I'll tell you what, regardless, if they don't win the series, it's like, you know, to me, again, Atlanta being further ahead than anybody thought they were. And next year you go in with a ton of momentum. I think Travis Schlenk has done an unbelievable job putting this group together. You know, we'll see what they do. They'll probably let John Collins walk. They can't afford him. Somebody will overpay for John Collins, but it's not like, listen, John Collins has been a role guy on this Hawks team. He was like the number one guy for a crappy Hawks team a few years ago. Then he turned into like the sidekick for Trey. Now he's just another player. They can sustain the loss of John Collins next year and probably be better as these young guys like Herter, Reddish, Hunter take steps forward.
What they've done is make themselves a viable entity in the Atlanta sports community.
Yeah.
They fought hard for, you know, recognition over the years. It's never, you know, and they were down, and now this, just go back 3 months, who would have dreamed we'd be having this conversation in January, you know? And then the coaching change is made, and they go off, and I think the record with this latest loss is 33-13.
Right. Hey, Bob, why aren't they just giving Nate McMillan the job full time? Why have they waited this long? Isn't it kind of an embarrassment to ownership that they haven't just said, you know, you could do it at any point. Why wouldn't you have done it before this Philly series and just said, hey, you know what? He's our coach. We're giving him a 4-year deal. Maybe Nate didn't want to do it right now. I don't know.
That's an existential question I'm not prepared to answer, because it's on the outside, from the outside perspective, it looks like a total no-brainer. Right. So I don't have the answer.
I mean, they're going to do it at the end of the year. And I guess maybe, again, if you're Nate McMillan, you don't want any distractions now, nothing. You just say, you know, what's the difference? Well, you have a handshake agreement already in place. You're going to give me a 4-year deal, 3-year deal, whatever it's going to be. Let's wait till the end of the year.
The other thing is, if I'm Nate, I'm thinking, I can't speak for him, but I'm thinking could be thinking that he's proved to the world what he can do again. If anybody needed reminding, his future employment somewhere is not in doubt.
Right.
Okay. He's going to be, what is it, 54 maybe. He's going to have another good decade of NBA coaching employment for sure. No question.
Now the question is, can Nate McMillan, one of the better defensive guards that you and I saw of his time, can he get Trey to defend a little bit? Because Trey is so good offensively, so good. And now I think the key for Trey is do what Steph Curry did and take your game defensively to where it's at a low level to be above average.
Well, let's remember, how old is he? 17. I mean, we have to remember that he's young. He's got we're used to him already, but he's got a long, plenty of room for growth is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, no doubt.
And we got to give him the benefit of the doubt that he'll recognize this.
The biggest thing with Trey that I always questioned was, could Trey be the best player on a team that advanced in the playoffs? I always knew, like, he's going to put up numbers. He could score. He's an exceptional passer, great court vision, all of that. I just didn't know if he'd be kind of an empty numbers guy. And certainly I know the Knicks are the Knicks. It's not like winning a series against the Knicks is something that completely validates you. But here you get like 2 games against Philly and you beat the Knicks.
Yeah.
And you're in the second round.
Yeah.
That validates Trey Young.
Yeah, I agree. So it's a nice story to watch. We'll watch it. No problem.
All right, let's go to the West.
Yeah.
And your boy, first we'll talk about your boy Jokic and his MVP, and then we'll get on to them being down 2-0 and not looking pretty for him. Did you feel like it was the right move for you?
A little surprised at the overwhelming nature of it, only because you can't get inside the head of 100 people. But clearly the universal thought process was that he was the player of the year and had played, and in contrast to other candidates, had played the whole season. Right. And I know if I were a voter, it could have been one of the tiebreakers for me. The other tiebreaker or the tiding factor would have been, like many people, I said, oh my God, Jamal Murray, they're screwed now. How much can they accomplish? And they went off and immediately went off, and I think 9 out of 10. And, not the only reason, but the primary reason was Joker came to him to play every night and did what he does. The numbers are fantastic. It's highly reminiscent in what he's accomplishing and how he's doing it of the late middle age of Wilt Chamberlain, where starting in when he decided he wanted to lead the league in assists, and then toned his game down and put up routine triple doubles. This is exactly the same kind of statistical game, 26, 15, 8, 9, 10, that Wilt was having in those days. I'm saying this about Jokic. It occurred to me suddenly like a flash the other day, in terms of middle European big men. Back when he came to the NBA and in his good years with Portland, Arvydas Sabonis was a certain player. And people that had seen him when he was young, when he was before the boxcar vats of vodka that he ingested in his life, and B, the injuries, that the young Sabonis, here's the way they all described him: Bill Walton with a 3-pointer. Well, guess what is Nikola Jokic?
Yeah.
Bill Walton with a 3-pointer. He's here, folks. We have Bill Walton with a 3-pointer. The closest thing to Walton as a passer that we have seen from the center position. And by the way, he can face up and hit a 3. He was the player. See, I have a problem with valuable. I don't care what sport. That gets into semantics.
Sure.
Valuable. People say, well, if you took him out away from that team, where would they be? Well, you can say that about a lot of teams. And the point is, some teams survive better because of the supporting cast. You're not the GM. You're the player. If they got a team that can make up for your loss better, what I'm saying? That's some stupid argument. It's
because
every year.
Right. And again, other guys are I don't want to say held back, but they kind of are. Like a couple of years ago when you had Kyrie and Gordon Hayward got hurt, that allowed Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to flourish. They had no choice when those two got hurt. If they hadn't gotten hurt, who knows how much longer it would have taken for Tatum or Jaylen Brown. That's
the flip side, yeah. No, so anyway, I approve it. Embiid, if he played all the games or played 75% or 88% maybe, and I knew there would be a little sentiment for Steph. And there should have been some sanity. He finished properly right at third, right? And
Yeah, but he didn't
that's-
make the real playoffs. So, like,
yeah, what a year he had, and how they played, and it was so. But I'm okay with Jokic. I was interested. Doc Rivers pointed out something very interesting about the motivation thing with Embiid. That back when Doc was a member of the Spurs in 1994, or is it 4 or 5? Doesn't matter which one. And David Robinson was the MVP, and they had to go up against Elijah Wan in the first round, and Elijah Wan was pissed.
really.
Because he didn't get it. And so he said, oh my God, so he understands what could be motivating Embiid right now. Well, but at the flip side, Embiid's his guy.
Yes.
So,
Yes, it works with Embiid. I just don't think Joker's got enough. And I didn't think I'd say this against Phoenix, but he needs Jamal Murray. And what Phoenix has it right. They've got a point guard who in Chris Paul, who is obviously a pro's pro. You've got an unbelievable scoring wing in Devin Booker, who's become arguably one of the top 10 players in the league right now. And you've got a big who is super talented and at least he's not going to hold his own against Joker, but DeAndre Ayton is very different and can be extremely effective. He's not a great shot blocker for his size or length or athleticism, but what he is extremely athletic, runs the court well. You could throw it to him in the post. He gives you something at that center spot that's a lot different than everybody else has. So, Phoenix, I'll tell you what, Bob, I don't know, a Brooklyn Phoenix NBA Finals, if it comes down to that. And I don't know if you're betting against Phoenix, but I'm not right now. I mean, I think they might be the front runners. If you said to me hey, Phoenix is going to play Utah in the Western Conference Finals, it's going to be a hell of a series if it happens, but I might take Phoenix.
if it happens, I'll be rooting for them, but I will be betting on the Nets. I'm scared of them. And Joe Harris is what a perfect compliment.
Perfect fit.
Guy shoots 50% on threes, and he just runs to the spot. Oh yeah, here we go, and he gets the ball, and he makes
Bruce
them.
Brown. How about Boston's own Bruce?
Oh,
Brown?
You must love that.
Because he's just he. Listen, Bruce Brown. The best part of Bruce Brown, he does not say a word, Bob. The dude just goes out and balls, and he was always that way. Went to school at Miami, which was he was a top 50 player, could have went almost anywhere, and goes down in Miami. Maybe he just went down for.
He went to Brewster, right? Academy.
Did he go to Brewster? Vermont Academy. Academy.
I thought, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and was a guy that never cared about any attention, any of that. And you could see it with the way he plays. He doesn't care about scoring. He just wants to guard, and they need guys like that, right? That just come in and want to guard.
Remember,
and they are, listen.
They sneaked in for a nice tip in the other day when we weren't paying attention to him. He's a glue guy kind of guy. By the way, if they get more contributions from a guy who started the season in Russia, that's going to be a story. Mike James.
Oh, unbelievable, huh?
How about that? He had like a 10-point game the other day.
Yes, he was great.
Geez.
I mean,
that is
some of the
story.
guys.
Hey, Sean Marks, and by the way, how's he looking right now with that acquisition of Blake Griffin?
Unbelievable. No, that
he must be happy.
Remarkable.
He must be completely comfortable in his role, his elder statesman role, right? He's not being asked to carry the burden. He seems to be okay with that. He's fitting in, and he's been a damn big help for that team. I mean, but they're going with a lineup that looks like the starting lineup in the Division II finals. I mean, he's the tallest guy, 6'8". Yeah. Oh no, of course you got KD. Sorry,
KD, but he doesn't.
Anyway, my money's on them right now. Okay,
me too.
I hate to say, but
especially with Blake, like you said, we didn't even talk about Blake, and every time I watch Blake now, I can't help but think of Derrick Rose and the transformations made.
Yeah,
athletically. Right. They were both freak athletes. Probably they might have been 1A and 1B at some point in the NBA athletically. And now they've both completely reinvented themselves.
Hey, I'm now driving a Kia. Don't think about Blake Griffin.
Every time, right? Every time. I mean, seriously, like people that watch him now, young kids that are 12, 13 years old, if you told them, 5 years ago, here's the tape of this guy.
Yeah,
and what he
right,
could
right.
do. But I've
Yeah.
always loved Blake. I remember, I think I saw Blake before just about anybody. He went up in an AU tournament against Hashim Thabit.
Oh, yeah.
And I remind Blake to this day, Hashim Thabit headbutted him. It was in a back gym in Houston, Texas, a Kingwood Classic. And they went up and they were both like big time players at the time. And man, did they go at it. Like Hashim Thabit was at that point, he was a monster. He was a complete monster and eventually went number 2, flamed out. But I remind Blake all the time. I'm like, yeah, Hashim Thabit kicked your ass. And he just laughs.
Oh,
I mean,
funny.
he didn't kick his ass, but he gave him a headbutt.
That's funny.
All right. We got Utah Clippers.
Oh, yeah. Utah Clippers.
Probably the most, I don't know. I feel like this is the one that has a chance to go 7 out of all of them. No?
The Clippers remain an enigma. You know, when they play
They
well,
are.
and you can't, then they start throwing stink bombs like nobody can throw in stink bombs like they can. And Paul George specifically, he was at it again the other day, 4 for whatever the hell, 18.
Yep.
You know, they can't win if that's happening. They can't.
Donovan Mitchell has been spectacular.
How about that 32 points after halftime after he was sick? I mean, no, he's
That's
we
a
learned that
Brewster
last
Academy guy. He was Brewster Academy, Donovan Mitchell.
Oh, that's it. I knew one of those good guys. Okay. People have to. I still freak out about that because it sits up there on the lake in Wolfboro, New Hampshire,
Beautiful.
far from the madding crowd. Let me tell you. And yet every college coach east of the Rockies knows how to get there. Right? You have to. Right?
Yeah, Jason Smith's done a great job there. They
have to.
The Brewster Academy.
Anyway,
Unbelievable.
the Clippers, their fans must go. They go through more, anxiety, more fluctuations of emotions than any set of fans and any team in North America, in my opinion.
Very true. All right. So let's turn our attention a little bit. I want to know your thoughts on all these guys lately, Anthony Davis, James Harden, that forced their way out. They sign these deals, and then they basically are saying through their agent or through themselves, I'm done. I'm not happy here. AD did it in New Orleans. Harden did it in Houston, and forcing these teams to trade them. I think we're going to see this. The reason why I'm asking, I think we're going to see this with somebody. Inevitably, there's going to be a star every offseason who does this. I don't know if it's going to be Dame Lillard, who's got a few more years left on his deal, like a hefty deal that I think exceeds $50 million at some point. Could we see it with Bradley Beal in Washington? I don't know. But first of all, Bob, like, what do you think, as somebody who's been around this league as long as you have, to watch guys do this and basically say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I signed a contract, but like, I don't care. I'm out.
You can't fault anyone for wanting to win. You have to start with that. And if I were to give them all the benefit of the doubt that is the root thing, ultimately, I want to win. I have a better chance of winning if I can play with players A, B, and C, as opposed to the X, Y, and Z that I'm playing with now, kind of thing. I can't fault that. I mean, the mentality. And the other thing is this: times change. We will never know if the option of this type of leverage, the exercise, were available because of a thing called free agency, or because of agents, and because of all kinds of factors that didn't exist in the 50s, 60s, and even the 70s. And how many guys would have wished to do, because it wasn't on the radar screen. It wasn't even discussed. It wasn't remotely possible. So nobody did it. That's A. Now, over here, I honestly can remember conversations with Larry in the day about wanting to do it with the franchise that you started with, wanted to do it, the loyalty factor, the just the familiarity factor.
That's not there anymore.
He admired Magic, but he didn't want to. He wanted to beat him. He wanted, and then go have a beer after. That's what he wanted. And Magic, the same thing. They admired each other, but the idea of joining forces didn't occur to them. They wanted to beat him, and that was the motivation, to beat the other guys. And then it was impossible. But this now, neither of them were the AAU wasn't a factor. You were a regional player.
Right.
You were Larry, in Larry's case, one sliver of a state, Southwest Louisiana and Orange County. They weren't and Michael wasn't an AAU pup either, by the way. There was no, he was a North Carolina phenomenon. I never heard of him until he showed up at Carolina. Yeah. Unlike a LeBron, who we knew he was 13 years old. All right, so now this is your world. Now you understand the culture. You understand it that if you're a good AAU player, sooner or later you're going to be playing spend the summer in Las Vegas, or at least part of it.
And you know everybody.
You know them all.
You're out. You're on the circuit now. There are different circuits. But for the most part,
a lot of them know each other, and it's so the culture, to use an used word, is different. So you ask me what I think of it. I'm resigned to it. Yeah. I can't. There's nothing I can do about it. LeBron said, LeBron showed you how to do it and who to do it with, and it won. It worked. Now, if it hadn't worked, if it blew up in their face, the only time it blew up in their face.
But that's different, Bob. LeBron is different because his contract was up. That's the difference.
Okay, right.
You know what I mean? Like
you're
listen,
right.
To me, two totally separate topics. One, when your contract runs up, you want to join with everybody. You want to get 5 guys together. Now they can't afford it. Go ahead, do whatever the hell you want. My big issue is you sign a big contract a year ago for $50 million, and then a year later you say, "The hell with this. I want out."
You're right. Okay, I don't see how anybody can approve of that. And you can't. What Harden did. But
he didn't even play. Like it was BS what James Harden did, because he went out there almost like tanking.
Yeah.
And AD did it because Rich Paul told him to. Let's face it, Rich Paul was maneuvering that whole deal so that he could end up playing with Rich Paul's boy LeBron in LA. Like that was all done. Calculated, it worked, good for them. Nobody really cares when you win a title. Nobody's talking about it. So, it's one of those things where you get crushed for, like everything, a news cycle. You get crushed for a day or two, and then people move on from James Harden pulling his shit in Houston.
All right, so now we got a couple. Let's talk 2 specifics. Yeah. Exhibit A in the offseason, or topic A in the offseason, is likely to be that one half of the best scoring backcourt in basketball in Portland, Oregon. Lillard's name's being arbitrarily thrown around by a lot of people now because he could be the next one to want to do it. And he's fueled the fire, right? Twitter-wise.
Sure.
Very seriously. Yeah. So
he's the one, and everybody's fueling the fire for him. I mean, like Kendrick Perkins coming out and tweeting, "You should go to Boston or LA." You don't think Dame Lillard sees that, hears that? Of course he does. So the more you hear it, the more you're going to go one of 2 ways. Either you're going to say, "The hell with it. I'm staying in Portland. I'm going to turn Portland into a champion, and it's going to mean more to me and the city of Portland." Or you're saying, "Hey, you know what? I can't do this. I can't do this with this group like KD did when he was with Russ in Oklahoma City," right? It was, I know I can't do it here. So I'm going, and I'm going to go to, whether it's Golden State. A lot of people think like the Knicks could be in play for Dame Lillard. See, I don't see it being any better for the Knicks. Like if he goes to the Knicks, they're not winning a title. You better go with somebody else.
I can't wait to see what the Knicks, now that they've achieved respectability. Right. That's what they've done. They've achieved respectability, whether it will induce that major piece of a puzzle to join forces with them, we will see. The other guy to talk about is just that this isn't even remotely fair to him at all, but it's inevitable. We can't help it. If Milwaukee goes down in flames 100%. and has yet another year of another round of great regular season and disappointment playoff, will any thoughts start creeping into whose mind? And he's got a contract, a whopper.
Signed it.
Yeah,
signed it.
And I mean,
that's what I mean. When people sign these big deals, Bob, and everybody rejoices, right? Giannis did it a year ago, and everybody says, "Oh, all right, Milwaukee fans, we did it. We did it. We got him here for the next 5 years." No, you don't necessarily. You don't. Like, you got him. It's a year-by-year deal now with all these superstars. It is year by year. I don't care what they sign for. Some guys are different. Like Giannis might be a guy that is loyal to Milwaukee and might stay forever. But I think New Orleans felt that way with Anthony Davis. Remember, they had gone to the playoffs the year prior to when he basically said, I'm not playing anymore. I'm hurt or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I feel like Lillard, Giannis, keep an eye on, probably not this year, but maybe Beal. And the other one is Karl Anthony Towns.
Ooh.
Like, right? Couldn't Karl Anthony Towns, who's a CAA guy, who's from New Jersey, he's got a contract through 3 more years at 31, 33, and 36 million. Could he force his way out and go to New York or somewhere like that?
Good point. Yeah. And New York, certainly, they're going to be making a Google eyes at somebody because they need to take the next step, and they can't do it with the current crop as it exists now. They got to take it out. No, it's a disturbing trend at the very least, and ultimately you're at the whim of strong-willed young men, with talent.
No doubt. All right, before we go, every week we get your pick, which changes. Who's going to make the NBA Finals now, and who's going to win the NBA Finals this week?
I like.
What is Bob Ryan's pick?
All right, I'm looking. First of all, I'm looking forward to Phoenix and Utah, but I think Phoenix wins, and Chris Paul's destiny to finally play for the big prize. He's never done it. That's one thing. He's got something in the eyes of many people. He's got a lot to prove still because he's never even gotten to the finals. And I think this year he will do it. But I'm afraid they'll be hoisting a flag in Brooklyn, New York. I just think.
How unbearable will Kyrie be if both of them? To be honest, KD might be just as unbearable. Like it's funny. I have loved you know me with KD and the fact that I've known Kevin since he was 15 years old, and I've always defended Kevin Durant from all the way through. Mm-hmm. And now I feel like the more time he spends with Kyrie, the more he's going to be tougher for me to defend. Snapping at Jared Greenberg the other night a little bit for, maybe a poorly posed wording of a question, a little bit of Jared asking him, did you ever think you'd get back to where you are now after the injury? Yeah,
I mean, you didn't have to overreact to that. Right. I thought, no, that was terrible. Right. I mean, it's a compliment. The question is dripping with compliment. My God, you're back as far as you can after a severe Achilles. And look, I go back far enough to when it was a career ender. Right. Luke Jackson was a really good player, and his career, boom, ended. Guys, I remember when Tom Boerwinkle stepped on Tiny Archibald's heel, and we couldn't believe he came back. Now it's different. It's fixable. Yep.
But still, at his age, he's not 27.
No, he's 31.
He's 31. To come back and be, to me, still the best offensive player on the planet, bar none. Like there's no argument. There's no argument. Kevin Durant is as good as he was prior to the injury. He's giving you a compliment, and just take it. Take the high road, and
that's
yes, I
unless there was
believe.
Unless there was some kind of personal deal going on between.
I don't think there was. I just think Kevin's become very defensive.
Oh, well, he's been defensive ever since he got that. He was shocked at the reaction to going to Golden State.
That's 100% it.
He's never gotten over it. I don't think.
I feel like, with Kevin, it was smooth sailing in Oklahoma City the whole way until the end, and everybody loving Kevin Durant, and not a bad word ever said about him ever. Remember the speech he gave winning the MVP.
Oh, he won everybody's heart.
Yeah.
Oh, he won everybody over.
Right. So then he goes to Golden State, and he's not used to it. He got crushed by half the country, and he's not used to it, and he didn't know how to handle it, or maybe he did know how to handle it in his opinion. You see, I don't mind. He comes back on Twitter and has fun with people. I don't mind that. I actually think that part of it shows he's human, right? Like he's interacting with fans, not always the best way. I don't either. I think a lot of people don't, but at least he's showing he's human. Yeah. Sometimes, it's a little much, and he gets a little too defensive. But again, listen, I'm gonna still say that Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant on the court, man, they are fun to watch. They are two talented people, and maybe they belong together, Bob. Maybe they're both quirky enough that they belong together and they get each other. I don't know, but so far, Bob, it is working.
Hard to refute that premise watching them play. So
Right. So, all right, there you have it. Another edition, another episode of the Ryan and Goodman podcast in the books. Make sure you come back every single week. Watch us, obviously, live, streaming, also wherever you listen to your audio pods.